Guys, today we're going to be changing the oil on this Chevy Suburban right here. This thing is a 2001 on the GMT800 platform. And if we go into here and we just turn on the key, engine service lights on, so she just needs an oil change. We're going to be using good stuff today. Alright, we got a K&N oil filter and Mobil 1 extended performance high mileage oil. 5W30 for these old V8s, and it'll take 6 quarts for the 5.3 and 6.4 quarts for the 8.1. So let's just pop this filter out of here. Nice K&N performance filter. Alright guys, so before we install the new filter, just get a little dab of oil and put it on around the seal of the filter. This will keep it from cracking and it'll make a better seal. Alright guys, so to make life easier for me, let's bring the tools down underneath the car so that way I don't have to keep jumping back and forth. Then we can get under here. Luckily, this is a good old Suburban, so everything's nice and open. So before you do anything, make sure the oil pan is underneath where the oil is going to come out, obviously, because otherwise it's going to be all over the place. And I always have cardboard underneath the oil pan just in case. Alright, I'm just going to kind of do this so that I don't get oil all over myself when it comes out. It's starting to get loose, so it's going to pop out here in a sec. There you go. Oh, it's not great lighting under here, but check and see if there's metal chunks. Stuff looks pretty clean actually, so great sign. Alright, now just let it sit here for a couple minutes and drain out. Now it's all drained out. Let's take the filter off. Alright, then oil is gonna come down from here. This is why you always wear gloves. Can't get a grip on the thing. I think the reason there's so much in the filter is because I drove it to where it's sitting right now. Filter is now off, and I would just, kind of let it sit upside down on the oil pan a little bit to keep it from dripping all over. Alright, so I'm just gonna let this dry up a little bit. Normally I'll flush the oil out a little bit. It's still dripping, it's always gonna have a little bit of drip. But I don't think I have got enough oil to use any to flush it out. This thing is a monster and it takes 6 quarts. So let's get the new filter back on there, get the drain bolt back on there, and then we can put some fresh oil in this thing. Alright, so it's pretty much dried out now, so let's just wipe all the old oil off of this seal up here. Now that we got oil on the new one, we can just pop this onto here. And you want it nice and tight. Alright, so now the filter's on there nice and tight, so let's pop the drain bolt back in. And you don't want this bolt too tight, just tight enough to the point where it's not going to fall off. Now once you feel that it's snug, don't go any farther than that. You don't want to snap this bolt off, that would just really suck. So now just get in here, pop the hood. So here's where you change the oil. Alright, okay, so now get an oil funnel and just pour in the oil. Then we got one more quart right here. I'll just get a shop rag. Make sure you clean out your funnel so it's not leaking everywhere. Alright, then let's put the oil cap back on there. So now let's start it, back it off the ramps, and leave it running for a minute. Then we can go underneath again, check for leaks, and we'll check the oil level. Seems to be running good. So I'll just let it sit here for a minute, warm up, and get all the oil through. Alright guys, so I let it run for a couple minutes. Doesn't seem to be leaking. So yeah, that should be good now. Seems to be driving good. This thing's got 195,000 miles on the clock, so it is tired, but seems to be running good. I mean, it's no speed demon, but it gets up and goes. I think that's a success. You know, this thing actually rides pretty good for being 22 years old now. It's pretty impressive. Yeah, she seems to be driving good. And I mean, it's no speed demon. I mean, it's, you know, a Chevy Suburban. This thing ain't no light vehicle, but it isn't a slouch either, so that's always a good thing. Cruises well too, and honestly just a smooth ride. Shifts smoothly and everything's still working good. So I've heard people like Scotty Kilmer complain about these things, you know, saying, oh, the Chevy Suburbans, they don't last that long, but honestly they might not last as long as a Toyota, but these things, at least these older generation ones, seem to last a really long time. And most important thing, it does have oil pressure.
Just looking under here now after the road test, and none seems to be leaking out of the oil drain bolt or the filter. Looks like just a little bit of buildup where it needs the transfer case, but that's all good, nothing major.
So there you go, guys. That's how you can change the oil on a early 2000s 9th gen GMT800 Suburban.